So we've laid out all of the parts you will need to install the drip irrigation system on your farm plot, and we wanted to show you how to put it together so you can come and do it on your own with these directions. So these are the pieces that you will need. You will need one hose that goes from the water hydrant. So you might need a different lengths, but we will have those hoses for you. The next piece you will need is a timer. It's a hand crank timer. So you turn it to the time that you want to leave the water on for. This is at 60 minutes right now, and it will run and then automatically shut off. There are two different brands of timers, but they both do the same thing. So I wanted to show you, I think we have 5 of these and 3 of these, but they're the same. The next part is the connection that goes from the timer to the check valve. And we have a plastic piece, and then we have a few of the metal. These are the same. One's just plastic and one's metal, so you can choose which one you'd like to use. Then you will need a check valve. Then you will need this coupling piece that connects this check valve to this piece here. Then you will need this adapter. This piece fits inside. Then you have the pressure regulator. So this is going to reduce the water pressure coming out of the water hydrant to your hose. Then an elbow piece. Then a small piece of PVC pipe that will connect the elbow to this nipple. Then you will need 2 pipe straps that will connect this nipple to your blue hose. And then you will need 120 feet of blue hose for the length of your farm plot, or if you're going to go all the way to the end of the plot to cover where you plant corn, you'll need more of that hose. And it's good to keep it all in one piece. So you want to decide if you're going to set up irrigation for the corn plot before you cut this, so that you can cut one long piece if that's what you want to do. We do have a part that will connect 2 pieces of blue hose together if you decide later that you want to add that. So that's an option if you decide right now you just want to set up the irrigation for the farm plot. You can add a piece later for the corn area if you'd like to do that with this piece here. This is the hole puncher that we'll use to punch holes in the blue hose to attach the drip hose. So you'll need this piece here. These are the valves that you'll use to connect the black hose to the blue hose. So you'll need a valve for every row of vegetables you're planning to plant. You'll need about 4 zip ties. And then these are the staples that will keep your hose in place. So you only need a few of these per line, and we'll show you how to put those on. And then this is a sheet that shows you the parts that are here, and it has a photo that shows the order in which they go together. This part down here is the connection to the garden hose from the water hydrant, and this part over here will be where the blue hose is connected. And these will be inside a folder inside this purple folder in the shed for you to get. And then you'll want to have a pair of scissors to cut the hose. And it will be helpful to have a plier like this to stretch this blue hose to make it wide enough to fit on the nipple. And this part here to squeeze the hose so you can put your zip ties on. And we'll show you that part. So those are all the parts you need. So we're going to start by connecting the hose to the water hydrant. So you want to get this nice and tight. And we have a short hose because we're going to lay the line down the length of the farm plot right here. But if your farm plot is further from the water hydrant, we'll have a longer hose for you. So the next piece to attach is your hand timer. And you want to make sure that there's a gasket, this black gasket inside. If you don't have one, we have extra. You want to make sure that's inside before you screw it on. Okay. Then the next piece is either this. These are both the same, so you can choose if you want to do the metal or the plastic. I'll go ahead and use the metal one. And you want to make sure there's a gasket inside that one as well. Now that you have this piece on, is to put some of this plumber's tape around the threads before you screw the next part so you have a tight seal. So you take this tape and you want to wrap it so it's going clockwise around and you just need to go one time. And then you can cut it. Okay. So now you can attach this check valve by screwing it on. And you want to make sure when you attach the check valve that the arrow is pointing this way, not this way towards the water hydrant, because the water is going to flow this way, so you want the arrow pointing that way. Okay, now we're going to attach this piece, but we want to put plumber's tape on both sides. and then just push it into the threads. If you don't put this tape on clockwise, it will come off when you tighten it. So you want to go this way to the right. Okay, next we'll attach this piece to your check valve. You want to screw it on until it stops. You want to make sure it's very tight. Okay? This is the next piece you put on, this PVC piece that has threads on one side and it's smaller opening, bigger opening on this side. Some glue on this piece to attach it to the other PVC part. Okay. So in order to prep the plastic for the glue, we use the primer, the purple can. It will clean any dirt off of the plastic. So you want to clean this part and you want to clean the inside of the PVC. And we are putting the smooth side to the smooth side. The threaded side will stay on without glue because we're going to screw the next part into it. So we just want to put glue on the smooth side. So you take this purple primer, just go once around, and on the smooth side, then let it dry. And once it's dry, then you can take the glue, you just wipe it off a little because it comes out a lot. And you have to do this quickly because it will dry very quickly. Put glue on one side, glue on the other, and then put it together. Push as far as you can. Okay, then we'll put the next piece on, which will be your pressure reducer. And you want the arrow on the pressure reducer to be pointing away from this white piece. Do you see the arrow? So you're going to screw this on. Ooh, I forgot to put plumber's tape on. Twice on this one because the threads are deeper and bigger and it will screw in deeper. I want to make sure I have plumber's tape covering the whole area it will screw on. What do I do with this scissors? Side. Oh my goodness. I checked the arrow and it was on the wrong side, so we'll fix it. We need that on there anyway, so that's okay. put it on both sides. And the plumber's tape isn't sticky, so you have to hold it while you wrap it, or else it will slide. But once you push it down with your finger onto the threads, it should stay in place because it grips the thread. Okay, now we can put it on. So arrow's pointing this way. Okay. Keep tightening until it doesn't tighten anymore. Okay. Then the next piece is this elbow. You want to put the threaded side and ideally you want to have it so it lays flat with this pressure reducer so that when it's on the ground it will lay all flat together. You don't want it to be like this so it's up. So if you can tighten it so that it's flat with this part, then it will lay on the ground nicely. Okay, this is the last piece we will glue. So we have a piece of PVC and we're going to clean it and then glue this on. You want to make sure you wipe any dust off or dirt, and the same with this part, as much as you can. So I'm going to put primer on both sides of this, and then we're going to glue this piece into here, and then we're going to glue this piece onto here. So we'll just do one at a time so that my fingers don't get covered in glue. And I'm going to do the inside. Just dump a little bit of the extra off. And just wait for it to dry for a minute, for about 10 seconds. And then we'll add the glue. And it's nice if you can have the helper to hold this. But if you don't, that's okay. So push it in as far as you can. And then we'll do the other side. You really want to try to keep the glue from getting all over the can, because then if you put the lid back on, it will glue it together. So now I'm going to prime this piece on the inside. Let that dry. I missed a part. I'm going to get this part right here. Make sure it's very clean. Okay. And now we'll put the glue on. Need to go once. Oh, extra glue. And slide it on. Alright. So those are all the pieces that you put together before you add the hose. So you can do this all together, and then you can measure out the hose next. Lilius is going to pull the lay flat blue pipe all the way to the posts. We're working on Habiba's pot today, and she wants the pipe to go all the way to the train track. So Lilius is actually walking all the way to the train track. When she gets to the end, she's going to leave 1 foot of extra pipe so she can tie it off at the end and seal it.
Should I go down there?
Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to clamp off this end so that the water doesn't come out of the hose since it's open here. So with the extra lay flat that we have, or the blue hose, you want to fold about as wide as your hand. One, 2, 3 times. And then you're gonna, Rachel, can you come help me with this part? So then what you want to do is we're gonna wrap zip ties around, but we want to fold this hose together. Like if there was a hot dog here and this was the hot dog bun. So I like to use these. And the idea is to get, that in the middle. And maybe starting in the very middle to fold it in half. Yes. And then once she's got it going, I'll come in and grip it and squeeze it. I don't want to get your fingers. It's a good 2-person job. Okay, so now we've got it clamped here, so we'll put 1 zip tie in the middle. And I stick it in the flat end. You're going to pull it as tight as you can and make sure, you'll know you put it the right direction because this won't slip. It'll catch and it's locked. Does that feel tight? Pretty tight. Okay, and now we want to do one here and here as well. This is the tricky part because you really got to bend this, which is tough to bend. So Rachel's very strong. So strong. So I'm just working my way down so I can get it to the end. And then Rachel, if you want to go ahead and put one around there and then we'll tighten it. We can even use the pliers to pull. There we go. Really good. So that's what you want to do. And then we're going to do that again on this side. Okay. Put it on this side. Closer, am I good? I think if you start to tighten it, it will. Oh yeah, you're good where you are. Perfect. So now you have this as tight all the way across. All right, so we added total of 5 zip ties to the end of the blue hose to clamp that off nice and tight. Now I'm going to show you how to connect the blue hose to your setup here. So the first thing you want to do is to cut your blue hose, and you want to leave it so it will be a little bit off of the farm plot. It's nice to have this setting on the grassy part so it's less dirt that can get into the system. And I want to cut the hose so that you're giving a little bit of extra because it's going to slide over this piece here. So I'm going to cut it right here. And then this is where I take my pliers, because this hose is very thick and it doesn't just go right over the top of this. You have to stretch it out. So I take my pliers and I put it inside, and I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna stretch it, and I start about the length of this down at the bottom, and I work my way up, and I stretch it on one side, and then I turn it and I stretch it on the other. When it's warm outside, it's a lot easier, but it's cold today, so this might take a while. But you really want to stretch it. You'll see, get a little bit wider. You want to get all the way at the top too, because you want to stretch that part. And now we'll go the other way. Okay, then we'll check and see how well we did. It's a little bit better, but I want to get it up past, I want it to at least be 1, 2, 3, 4 ridges high, because I'm going to put 2 of these straps on, and I need enough room for them. Ideally, you'll get it all the way to the top, so I'm going to stretch it some more. And this whole time, you want to be careful not to get dirt inside this hose, because the holes on the drip tape are so tiny that dirt can clog them. So we really try to not get any dirt or any debris inside this hose. Okay, so we actually switched to these larger pliers, and it made it much easier. So we are now stretched out. And before you attach it, you want to slide your hose clamps on, and then put your blue hose on, just like that. Yay! And now we will tighten these onto just the part where you can feel the plastic is underneath. So I get to about here and I can't feel the plastic anymore, so we want the hose clamps to go on this part here. So I'm going to put them close to each other, and we'll just do one at a time. We will need a flathead screwdriver, and you're just going to turn and tighten. And as you turn, it will get smaller. And you want to make sure that it is not past the hose all the way around before you tighten it all the way. Okay, so that one is tight as it can be, and now we'll do the next one. We're going to go right up next to it. Okay, so we're getting close now. I want to make sure I'm all the way up next to this other hose strap. right, now we're connected. All right, so this is a helpful tip to set up so you can pull the drip tape out without it getting tangled. This broom lives in the shed, so if you just take this handle off, and then get this big roll, put the broom through the hole in the side. Maybe you can come over and show. Then when you pull the drip tape, it will roll. Okay, so now we are going to measure the drip tape line, the black hose, and you want this to be the length of your vegetable row. So if you are growing this way across your farm, then you want it to be from one path to the next path. And if you're growing this way down the farm, then you want it to be from the top to the bottom. If you are going to grow from the top to the bottom, then you will actually only make this blue hose go this way across your farm. You'll need much less, because then you would just be setting up lines that go this way. But if you do go this way, yeah, you'll just need the blue hose to go along the farm this way. Okay, so we're going to measure one black hose that goes from the blue hose all the way to the post where the path would be on the other side of the farm. And I'm going to leave about 6 inches at the end so that we can clamp the end of the hose. So it's very flat and not at an angle. You want to cut it like this and not at an angle. Okay. I'm going to pick up my trash. So the next step is to attach this black hose to the blue hose. So you want to first determine where you're going to plant your vegetables. And you want to put this line just a couple inches from where either you're going to plant seeds or you would plant your small plants. So if this is my farm and I'm going to plant my seeds right here, I'm going to put my black hose line just a few inches from the side, like that. And actually, I want so the blue lines are facing up when I lay this down. So now that I know that I want my line here, I'm going to put a punch right here. I'm going to come close. This is the punch that we use, and you want to line the hose up so it goes all the way to the edge right here, and you want it to be on the flat side of the hose because it's going to punch half of a circle, which will actually end up being a full circle, but you want it to be as big as you can get it. So I'm going to come in just an inch or just 2 inches from where my vegetables are going to go. I want to push this blue hose into the punch, and when I know that I'm pushing it all the way to the edge, then I squeeze the handle and make the punch. You don't want to leave this plastic in the field, so I'll pick that up. And the next part is to attach this valve. This valve is going to attach to the black hose, and it's going to enable you to be able to turn this one line off and on. And that way, if you have vegetables that need water on one row, but maybe the vegetables in the next row don't need water, you can control how much water is coming out by turning these off and on. They're on when this valve is in line with your hose, and they're off when it is perpendicular. So with this valve, this is the part that's going to go into the blue hose, and I like to take this off first. Set this part somewhere where it won't get dirty, and I just push this in. I find it much easier to push this in without that part attached. Now it can be hard to get this part in, and you just kind of have to wiggle it around. You're going to stretch the hose out a little bit. So you want to insert this part into the hose. So it's inside. And then you're going to push and stretch and just kind of wiggle it around, kind of how we had to use the pliers to stretch the blue hose out. You want to just stretch it and kind of rotate it however you can get it stretched. And then you're going to try, the goal is to get this part inside. So then I start to push. And sometimes I have to turn and push the other direction just to get it loosened up. This is also much easier to do when it's warmer out. And just keep pushing. You want to be careful not to stretch too much, but sometimes you can use a screwdriver. Let me just get my... You can use a screwdriver and you can stretch it a little bit. If you need to, just pull that hole open a little bit. Just do it a little and then check, because you don't, like I said, you don't want the hole to be too big or else the water will leak. But on a cold day, it can be helpful. Okay, I'm getting there. You see how it's starting to slip inside? You'll have very strong thumbs after this. Okay, here we go. It's going in. Okay, so now it's inside, and if you see where the hose is bulging out a little bit, before you screw on your valve, it's good to tuck that in, because you don't want the hose to be flayed out like this, or else the water will escape. So I tuck this sides in, and now I'm going to screw this piece back on, and I want when I'm finished screwing it on, ideally this valve will be straight up like this instead of to the side. So sometimes you just have to wiggle it around to make sure that it's in the right spot. And you want to make sure that that hose is still tucked in on the top and the bottom. So sometimes you can squeeze it with your finger as you're doing it. You can also just check and make sure you've got that lip in. Mine's trying to peek out a little bit. I'm going to get the screwdriver and I'm going to poke it in. And I'm going to do that on this other side. Okay, that's good. That's where if you turn on the water and it's leaking, usually that's where the leak is happening, or because it's just not tight enough. So I'm tightening it all the way. Okay. So the next part is to take your black hose with the blue lines up, and you're going to slide it onto this piece here. You want to make sure this goes up and down. Before you slide your black hose on, you want to make sure this is all the way down this way. Make sure you don't have any dirt, and you want to slide your hose on as far as you can get it on, and then you screw this piece to the top. So you want to screw it so it goes this way, as tight as you can. And now you're connected. And once you turn your system on, if you see there's leaks here, then just unscrew this part, pull the hose back out, put it back on. Just have to see if you need to make an adjustment on there. And then you should be able to stop the leak. And on this hose, if you can see this, I'm not sure if you can, these have 8-inch spacing on the holes. So there's a little slit right here, I don't know if you can see it, between those two blue lines, and then 8 inches from that is another slit. So when you're planting, if you're planting small plants, you can actually lay out your hose, turn the water on, let it drip some water out, and then turn the water off, and you'll see where that water is dripping, and you can plant your plants right near that drip so that you know that the plant is going to be as close to the water as it can be, so that it's going to get the most water. That's a great way to just know, to tell yourself where all of those slits are, by just turning the water on and seeing where it waters the ground. So now we're going to go down to the other end of the hose, and we're going to clamp that, and then your system will be ready to run. I just need some scissors. I'm coming all the way down to the end here, making sure that my blue line is at the top. Going all the way to the path. And then I'm going to give myself a couple inches here. I'm going to say 6 inches. And then I'm actually going to cut a piece about 2 inches long off the bottom of my hose. And this is what I'm going to use. Instead of a zip tie, I'm going to slide this over the hose. So I'm going to fold it 1, 2, 3 times. And then we're going to fold it in half again like we did on the blue hose. It's much easier with these smaller hoses. And then I'm going to slide this piece over the top. Sometimes you just have to adjust to make sure it lines up right. Alright, just slide that right over the top. And now the ends are sealed so they won't leak. And then the last piece is to set your line in place with those landscape staples. And it will help to keep the line from moving. many, so you could go like every 10 feet or every 5 feet. And you just push them into the ground, and it will hold your hose in place where you want it. You don't want to push it so it's really tight to where you would cut the water off on the hose, but you want to push it down so it's holding it against the ground. And I'll just put one at the end here. A little bit harder there. Step on it. So now your hose will not move if it gets windy or if somebody kicks it. It'll stay there. Okay, so now that we have our system laid out and we've attached our first drip line, I'll just talk through when you want to add additional lines. So if you're planning to just plant one section of the farm right now, then I would suggest just add the lines that you need for your vegetables, and then once you're ready to plant the next section, to then add those lines and work your way down the farm plot as you're planting. If you're going to plant the whole farm out at once, great, you can just add all the lines that you need, but make sure to know where the vegetables are going to be planted before you add the line, so you don't, because it's very difficult to patch the hose once you've punched a hole if you want to move something. So you'll just need one drip line for every row of vegetables that you have, and you can turn off each valve, like I said before, when you don't need to water that line. And if you just need to water a different vegetable, you could just turn that line on for that one. So now I'm just going to show you how to use the splitter that we have on the hydrants to turn your drip system on. So because we have 4 farm plots that are going to use this water hydrant, we've attached a splitter so that we can put 4 different hoses onto this one hydrant. And when you are using it for your farm, you will see here it says off to this direction and on. If I'm turning it on, I'm going to just turn this lever to the right for just this hose here. When I'm finished, I'm going to turn it off, and if I had my hose on this section, I would turn it, it's off because it's facing this way, and then I would turn it on when I want it on. On this side, it's the opposite. So if I want my hose to be off, it's this way where it says off, and if I want it to be on, I go towards the on, this way. If I'm going to be using the hydrant, I not only have to turn it on here, but then I also have to pull up the handle to turn it on like you normally do when you're watering your farm. So you have to pull this up first, or pull this up after you turn this on. That will make it easier to move these. If this is on, there's more pressure, which makes it more difficult to move these levers. So if you turn this on first and then pull this up, it will be easier to use that. And then when you want to run your irrigation, when you have it on, you come down here to your timer, and you crank it to however many minutes you want the irrigation system to run. This timer can go for 120 minutes or for 2 hours. So if you crank it all the way, it will run for 2 hours and then it will shut itself off. So you can leave the farm and you'll know that the water will be turned off after 2 hours. If you crank it. If you just want it to run for an hour, you can just go to the 60-minute mark. Okay, so we finished putting in this line here as a demonstration for what it will look like on your farm. You will want to add 15 lines to your farm before you turn the water on, and make sure each line, each hose, each black hose is open so that there's not too much pressure in the hose. And if you do that and you get too much pressure that the water starts coming out faster, go ahead and turn it off and call either Rachel or Lilius and we can talk to you about how to fix that problem. Okay, so we went ahead and turned the system on, turned the water on, and you can see that little water droplet coming out. And then 8 inches down the row, there's another one. And then 8 more inches, you get another one. So you can see where the water's coming out, and that's how you can tell when you're putting your plants in where to put them.